Good morning, everyone, and this is a really neat opportunity today for our Skating Success Webinar Wednesday. We've got Scott Davis on today. We're very, very happy that Scott is with us today for our live webinar. And basically, before I get into Scott's bio, because it's a very good one, actually. I was reading a lot of it, and I think it's a really good bio.
I'm old.
But what I just want to go through for everyone on the webinar here is just some logistics. So just at the bottom of the screen here, and we've got a great selection of coaches, skaters, parents on board here. We've got a great skating community that's signed up for this. But just at the bottom of your screen, kind of on the bottom sort of left that you have is the Q&A box. So at any time, what we'll do through the course of this webinar is we'll have question and answers. If you have a question for Scott, please insert them in the question and answer box. There's a general chat box slightly on the right of the bottom of the screen here, and that's just for general chat, like, hey, how are you? You know, we've had a few come in already this morning too, so that's where that's going to be. And basically, yeah, we'll just kind of keep the conversation going. I'll kind of moderate, and Jadene, you'll kind of continue with the conversation. But what I'll do is introduce our guest this morning, and now I get to go to the bio, Scott. So, yeah. So, but Scott is first of all, Scott's just a great guy. I really enjoy Scott quite a bit, and I enjoy every chance that we get to be in his company, whether it's a skating event or such as this. And I know that Jadene, you've been doing some work the past little while, but anyway, as far as his credentials, Scott's currently the director at the Glencoe Club, the skating director. And Scott is a leader in the field. He's a leader in the field of figure skating, and among his coaching colleagues, he has a passion for all aspects of the sport. And he's also certified as an international technical specialist. With experience and coaching and competing at every level, performing in numerous ice shows, and calling on various technical panels, Scott brings a wealth of skating experience to any conversation of figure skating. So we really welcome him. As far as his competitive bio, this is where it gets really interesting. So Scott is a 1993 and 1994 U.S. national champion, 1994 Olympic team member, 1993 to 1995 world team member, U.S. junior national champion, two-time world junior champion, performed on Champions on Ice in the shows Stars on Ice, Hawaii and Japan, Skate the Nation, the Elvis Stoico Tour, and Feld production of Greece on Ice. That's his skating, and that's a huge bio there just for competitive skating. Also, personally too, someone that I used to watch a lot on video is Scott Davis. I want to say that the West Side Story program was one of my favorites. So want to throw that out there. And actually, you inspired me to do Choctaw into Lutz, because I remember that you did do that as your second Lutz in one of those programs. So I inspired me to try that a couple of times there too. So anyway, but as far as his coaching credentials, he's a World Olympic coach. World Olympic coach is a chartered professional coach with the Coaches Association of Canada. And now for his students, they include national and international medalists, and Amanda Billings, Vaughn Shapur. Scott, you might have to help me out with this one. It's Maciek, right, from Poland?
Yeah, Maciek.
Maciek, yeah, Maciek from Poland. And he's currently teaching junior national champion Kaya Ryder. So again, he's currently the director of the Glencoe Club, former director of the Calata Figure Skating Club, and has 18 years of coaching experience. So welcome, Scott, to the webinar today.
Wow, Ben, thank you so much. That was a long list of stuff. Made me feel old. But definitely, hopefully people can see the years of skating, and hopefully by the end of this, you'll understand a little bit more about me, and also the passion that I have for skating and for sport in general, and for kids too. So that was quite the introduction. So thank you.
Well, you're welcome, Scott, and again, we really appreciate your time this morning for this. So that's great. So Jadene, you want to lead off with a couple of things here?
I love it. Well, Scott, I think that the thing that really resonates with me through all of that, and I know the accolades, they represent moments in time, but something that resonates with me every time I hang out with you is passion. You have passion for skating and passion for life. And I want to just start with a little bit of going back down memory lane how did you get started in skating? What inspired you to be a skater? You kind of gave me a few thoughts on that when we were hanging out earlier this year, and I wanted to be able to share that with everybody.
For sure. I mean, I don't want to bore the audience too much with my background too much, but I grew up in Montana, small town Great Falls, and we were lucky and fortunate to have a coach that was very passionate about skating as well. Bob Crowley was his name, and he and his wife Linda made skating fun for all of us in Great Falls. And what they did was they, you know, gave us great instruction, but they made fun events like the ice show every year, and they would take us to competitions all over the Northwest and even down to LA. They would jump in his minivan and drive away off to these competitions. And that's kind of where I started to fall in love with the sport of skating, and the passion for what I did really took off. So I started there and kind of moved up to the ranks, and everyone asks, you know, did you, as a kid in Great Falls, Montana, were you dreaming of going to the Olympics? And not really. Like I knew I liked to skate. I liked to go fast. I liked to jump. I liked to spin. I liked to show off. I liked anybody to watch me. And so every year we'd sit down and set some goals. And it would be try to do better than it was last year, or try to do a different jump, or, you know, do something that way. It was never like, oh, I want to go to the Olympics and be Olympic champion. It was just every year that I started to get better and improve, and the goals changed, obviously. And when I started to go to a national level at 12 or 13, that's when my eyes were really opened to what the skating world could be like. And, you know, competing against the best people in the States, and also seeing childhood idols, like watching Brian Boitano and Christopher Bowman, Paul Wiley, seeing all those people at a national level, you know, inspired me as well. So I stayed in Great Falls till I was about 15, then moved to the Seattle area to take from Kathy Casey, who actually was from Great Falls as well. And I took ice dance from her sister, Myrna. But at 15, I had making a choice to either stay in Great Falls or move to Seattle with Kathy and her group of skaters. And I thought there's nothing else I really wanted to do. I wanted to skate. I wanted to reach all those goals. So I moved to Seattle, went to high school out there. And that's when I ended up winning junior nationals and going to junior worlds twice. I didn't win junior worlds. I was a competitor, but I started internationally competing. And that's when skating really took off. And actually in 1990, Kathy got the job offer to take over for Carlo Fossi at the Broadmoor World Arena in Colorado Springs. Okay. So I followed Kathy to the Broadmoor. And that's, you know, for those of you that are old like me or remember, it was a fantastic place to skate. It was an old arena, but it was situated on a lake around the Broadmoor Hotel. And you'd have people coming in to watch every day from the hotel. And that was inspiring. And also obviously having US figure skating there helped. And so that's when skating really took off. And that's when I started doing well in the senior ranks. And won nationals twice and went to the Olympics in 1994. And for those history people know, that was the year of the infamous Nancy Kerrigan, Tanya Harding knee whacking incident. So it was part of that crazy time. But yeah, it was, you know, I always tell the story, it was back in the day before social media, actually much before the internet. So we were all watching CNN, trying to see what happened and what was going on. And obviously going to the Olympics at that time was one of the highlights of my career, but definitely in an interesting time when, every single person in the world, around the world, was watching just to see what would happen with Nancy and Tanya. So
I had not pieced that together actually, and then you were in Team USA on top of it, so you were in the mix of that.
Yeah, right in the middle of all that, and it was like I said. I mean, it was one of the highlights of my career. You know, as I got closer to reaching that goal it was always in the back of my mind, oh, maybe I'll make it to the Olympics someday. And it was more about being part of the team. It was more about, you know, getting the cool outfit and walking in opening ceremonies and competing for your country. And that's, you know, looking back, that was what, years and years ago, 20, 30 years ago. So it was like, looking back now, I was like, oh, maybe it was never like, oh, I want to win a medal. And maybe that's why I didn't, which is fine. But it definitely made me, you know, all these life experiences make you the person that you are, right? And so make you maybe a different coach than someone else, or, you know, having all those experiences. So so yeah, that was one of the highlights. And then I actually tried to make it back to the Olympics in 1998, had a couple of injuries, life, growing up moments. I actually left Colorado and went to Simsbury, Connecticut, to take from a Russian coach, Galina Zmyevskaya, who was coaching Viktor Pchenko and Oksana Bayul kind of at that time. So I was with her for a couple of years toward the end of my amateur career. And I learned a lot, actually. I learned a lot about the way they trained and the way that they structure their learning. And I actually like parts of it. So having that background, looking back, I was like, oh, that was a good learning experience for me as a skater, obviously, but as a coach as well. So after 98, I didn't make the Olympics. That was disappointing, but made, once again, those life things that make you who you are. And then I started to, during that whole time, I was doing Champions on Ice and doing some shows and whatnot. But after 98, I did some more professional work. And that's actually where I met my wife, Steph, she's from Calgary. And we ended up being on the same show, Grease on Ice. And we toured together for a couple of years, and then actually ended up moving back to Calgary when that finished in the year 2000. So that's when I kind of finished up my professional skating. I still did the odd show here and there, but I actually was wanting to go. I went back to school. I actually had no thoughts of being a coach. I thought, oh, I'm going to go back to school. I'm going to finish my biology degree and maybe get into medicine. And when I was young, I always wanted to do either physiotherapy or sports med, and that was kind of in the back of my mind. So I actually went back to U of C, University of Calgary, and finished my biology degree, and actually did the MCAT twice and applied to medical schools and didn't get in. So that kind of at that same time, I was helping Steph's mom, my mother-in-law, Sharon Lariviere, with some of her kids. And she was such a great mentor and passionate woman for skating as well, that I learned a lot from her. And that's when I started to get the coaching bug, actually, was seeing how she interacted with her skaters and seeing her passion for the sport and seeing that interaction and that positivity that she had, that kind of made me think, oh, maybe I want to teach. And obviously it was easier when she says, hey, teach, gave me a whole bunch of good kids like Amanda and said, hey, teach, can you work on her triplettes or do, work on something with her? So that kind of inspired me. And then kind of at that same time, the US Figure Skating asked if I would be interested in being a technical specialist, which at that time was kind of when the new system was rolling out, and they were looking for former athletes and former champions to come back to the sport and to give back in the technical panel, that aspect. And that interests me as well. So to get back into that side of the sport and to see how that could have an impact in skaters and in the sport as well inspired me as well. So all kind of that stuff happened at the same time. And that's when I put the medical thoughts on hold and then started coaching more and really getting into it. And then I just kept teaching, and here I am today.
That's so great. That's so great. I don't know how our audience is responding in their heads, but I'm just thinking what a cool journey you've been on. And it sounds like you've really been thoughtful in taking things from the journey along the way, right? Like not just going through it, but getting from it. That's what it sounds like to me. So Really happy that you shared all that.
Yeah, and that's, one of the next questions you guys had mentioned was coaching. How did you get into it? What's your philosophy and the passions and whatnot? And I think having all those experiences definitely helped. And then having all those great mentors like Sharon and obviously Kathy and Galena and Bob when I was really young, that good coaching, right? And that's what I want to try to instill in my skaters is, first of all, the love for skating, because it's such a cool, Jadene and I talked about it, such a cool sport that you have those moments out there on the ice where you're kind of free and you can, whether you're, really super artistic and you're passionate and you want to interpret some piece of music, or you're sporty and you want to jump and try to land a new jump, and and it has a brilliant combination of the two of the things. And then the other part is that it's a sport where it's really intense and it's really hard, and it's geared toward those specific moments where you have to be as close to perfection as you can, right? So trying to meld all those passions into the younger generation and trying to inspire and motivate in a collaborative way. And that's the other part I wanted to touch on as well, coming and doing, talks like this and working with Jadene with choreography, and obviously having those mentors and working as a team was huge, right? And I still think is very, very important, right? Having great team of coaches that, you work with on a daily basis. I work with Jeff Langdon with most of our kids, and we, that's a passion that we share with the kids that we teach, and also to have, choreographers coming in, or spin specialists, or edge class people that are experts in it, having that collaborative effort for the benefit for all the, for all the kids, not just my kids or your kids or, Canada. It's a whole collaborative effort, I feel like, is hugely important. And that's, skating, I think that's one of the things that, attracts me to what you guys are doing too, is the work that you guys are doing in that collaborative way.
Wow. I love that. Thank you for that. And I think that it's so real today. Like, I was going to ask you a little bit later about CPC and training and all that. We'll get into that, but without collaboration, I just don't know about this sport being able to be as exciting and as revolutionary as it has been. So I'm really glad you brought that up. Hey, Ben, are there any questions from the people yet? How are we doing?
The live ones here coming in just as of yet, Jay, but we do have a couple that we have as well. Is that correct? So we can go off that to keep.
Well, I love how prepared Scott is, because I'm asking these questions and like not even 2 days ago, I think, and you're just like on it. So thank you for actually reading through. I mean, it's you guys, that says something. If you're watching and you're a skater, like, he prepared. So just saying. Pretty cool.
Well, like, part of the thing was the coaching philosophy too, right? And as I think I mentioned, it's all about the kids, whether you're going to go to nationals or go to the Olympics, or you're trying to get your start to free skate. All the kids are setting goals, and they're learning those life lessons that you're going to take with you for the rest of your life, right? Because skating is such a short period of time. Obviously, when you're in it, you want to absorb every moment and detail, and you want to be part of it. But these lessons that you're learning, like time management skills and organization and focus and handling pressures, can help you in anything that you're doing for the rest of your life. So we want to try to instill those life lessons with the kids that we teach, right? And that's, I look back at what Sharon had done with all of her kids, and that was a huge thing, right? And trying to make everyone feel like they're important and they're valued, whether, like I said, whether you're going to take your star 1 or 2 or 3, you're a young person coming up, or you're trying to make it to junior worlds. Everyone's important, and you all have a place, and your goals and dreams are equally as important as the next person. So it's trying to create that atmosphere in the rink and amongst the coaches and the kids, to motivate and push them in a positive way, right? Because there's lots of different ways to motivate kids, and I had different coaches, and I had different ways of growing up and dealing with things. And when I started teaching, I was like, okay, first thing I want to do is make it a positive experience, right? Because that's just how my brain goes into that wavelength of, you know, trying to find the most optimistic, best life lesson learning from every experience, whether you've gone to a competition and fallen 25 times or you've had the best skate of your life. Let's try to learn from that experience. So those, you know, those basic coaching philosophies we're trying to instill in the kids that we teach, for sure.
I love it. I love it.
And that's a great point, Scott. But there's one question that actually got here, and you know, it's something that I think you've alluded to within your philosophy as well. But of course, you know, within this system, of course, it's changed over the many years, right? So as coaches, we've had to adapt and change, and new rules and a lot of different stuff. But I think one of the questions is, you know, how do you coach today? And it's athlete planning, and I think that's a really huge conversation and discussion. Is like, how flexible or rigid are you in the planning? Because I think that, you know, today, well, obviously right now it's hard to generate a plan in terms of what it's going to look like the next little while, but just maybe your thoughts on that and how you do that for your athletes with regards to overall season planning.
Yeah, I think obviously what we won't discuss, maybe we'll discuss a little bit later, the times that we're in right now they're a little bit different, but in normal times, it's really important, obviously, to have those plans. And that's kind of where my analytical brain and background goes to, is those plans and statistics and being organized so that they know exactly what they're doing or should be doing. So it's meeting with them, with the kids and the students, and trying to come up with kind of their yearly plan and laying it out at the beginning of their year, whenever that is, because everyone's year is a little bit different depending on their age and level and goals. But sitting down and say, okay, these are the competitions that you should be going to, and this is the timeline that you should be working. You know, this is the springtime, so now you're supposed to be, you know, working on your new elements, and you're trying to get new programs, and you're really focusing on the new things that you have to work on, whether it's speed or flow or basic skating skills, or so it's having those different phases of their year planned out, and so they know exactly what they're supposed to be doing. And then it's also being flexible, right, and being a little bit more fluid with the plan, and knowing their personalities, because everyone's a little bit different, and they can learn a little bit differently. Some are, you know, more analytical, some are more feelers, and some, you know, are emotional, you know. And so it's just knowing your students really well, having that communication, and that doesn't mean, you know, every day. Like it's more leaving it up to them too as well, because I personally want to have them get to a place where they're teaching themselves a little bit. Do you know what I mean? So that they know the expectations, obviously, and they know what we're looking for them to be doing, and then for them to take ownership, to be self-motivated, and to, like I said, to teach themselves, to be able to correct themselves a little bit, so that you're not always having to be in a lesson every single time, or relying on that feedback, that you're able to have those. And this goes to daily goals as well, having those daily goals and then reaching them with the tools that your coach has been teaching you, right? So I think, you know, obviously planning is huge, but I would just say, yeah, plan, but be adaptable, and then obviously know your students, and know how to motivate them as well.
Sounds like you're really leading them through the process, but you're also letting them learn how to lead themselves, right?
Yeah, I think, and Ben alluded to it a little bit, the times are completely changed, especially since when I skated, and even 10 years ago, technology is improving, right? You look at what is available, like look at this Zoom call, and looking at Dartfish, and looking at all the statistics and information that's out there on the internet that you can access. And so being able to take that information and process it, and to use it as a tool for your teaching is key, because that's the way that the sport is evolving, right? You know, looking at a jump and saying in Dartfish and saying, okay, you have this amount of time in the air, you need to be this amount of time to do the triple, and look at how slowly you're getting your arms and legs into their tightest position. You know, you can break it down it's a much more defined way than when we skated. And I think that's good, and good and bad. Like, I think we also need to be feelers, right? We need to know our bodies, and we need to know when that jump feels good. And then I always try to ask the kid right away, well, how did that feel? And what did you do differently? Or what did you think helped you to do that? Was it your pattern? Was it your speed? Was it you were thinking about what you had for breakfast? I don't know, what was going on in your head to get you to do that beautiful jump, right? And that's the other part that is huge, is the personalities and the mental focus and capabilities, right? So that's a whole nother aspect that we try to get the kids, whether we're doing it or whether we outsource those people, to have that mental capability of focus, concentration, positivity, and obviously being able to handle different stresses and situations, right? Because at the end of the day, when they close those gates, it's only you out there, as we all know.
So true. So true.
Yeah, that's a good point, Scott. That's really
So
good.
one of the things that you brought up a little bit earlier around you loving to perform, right? And getting kind of maybe addicted to that feeling of performing. And also, I would say, in addition to being known as a performer on the ice, because we all watched you skate, you were also a great spinner. And those two things are so important in the CPC system now. And I don't know if that's affected how you train your skaters now, or if you draw on that, or I'm just really curious about how you fold that in now as a coach, considering those are two of your strengths as a skater.
Oh, well, thank you. No, like I was saying earlier, it's such a different system, right? And you have to really understand how to maximize your points these days, right? In a way that can also set you apart and make you a little bit different, and create those special moments, right? Because that's the huge part of what the sport needs to do as well, is to have those times and moments where it's one of those wow moments, right? So, and that has to do with a lot of those things, whether you're spinning fast at the end or it's performance, and it's being able to train that on a daily basis, right? Like I said, whether you're outsourcing choreographers or you're doing a fun group class on a Friday night to learn how to perform a little bit better. And for me personally, I didn't really learn how to perform until the ice show, right? And so, and I, obviously did well in competition at times, but I was a nervous skater, right? And I was always a better practice skater. So I had to learn how to handle those nerves and pressures. And when I got into the ice show, I could perform. We had a new audience every night. You had, different ways to engage them and to learn how to do that. So I think that's important. And I think the way that the sport is evolving, you don't want to have any weak areas. And, the cool part about the sport is you get your feedback pretty quickly from your detailed sheet, and you can outsource the information. Why was my skating skills marked this, or my performance mark was here? And you can watch the video instantly that your coach is there and saying, look, you could do this better, right? You can always do this a little bit better. So the information's out there. It's being able to have the time. And that's the other part that I think is important, is to try to figure out your day and to manage what you need to work on those times. And, it kind of melds into kind of the current situation that we're in now. What can we do now when we're not here on the ice to address some of those areas of weakness, or those areas that we need to improve upon? And performing and flexibility and strength and overall fitness can be addressed right now. But yeah, those are, like I said, the way that the sport has changed. And then the other part, one of the questions was, how do you, like when we're training our kids and you're looking at what the world is doing, you just got back from Junior Worlds, looking at those Russian girls, and you're like, oh my gosh, they're so amazing. how can we compete, right? So that's in the back of our minds too, right? Because we want to make sure that we're competitive on a world stage, competitive in your own region. And how do you do that? It's time management too.
Wow. There's a lot there, you guys. I hope you guys are taking notes at home.
I'm just kind of rambling. I'm like,
it's huge. And actually, we're getting some questions popping in the box.
Oh, perfect.
So yeah, so Scott, maybe I'll start with this one for you. And this is from an anonymous attendee that's on the webinar right now. But it says, what would you do for on-ice session warm-up with your star skate level athletes? I'm always looking for new ideas. So, yeah.
Whether you're, I don't know, star skater competitive, we do some warm-up exercises and drills, and depending on what session they're on of the day, it varies a little bit. We have basic warm-up drills, bubble jumps with rotations, little edge work, just to get the body awake, and then also to get it into a mode of being quick and agile and ready to jump and rotate. So we do a lot of those drills, and then just basic edges and skating and stroking and outside edges and inside edges, and working on edge pressure and balance and coordination of being aligned over your blade is hugely important. So and we do a lot of little groups at the beginning too. Like you take 2 or 3 kids and okay, kids, we're doing this stroking exercises and warm-up drills just to get them going. And the system in Canada has changed quite a bit in the last couple of years. The new star 1 to 5, now it's 6 to 10 as well. And you can obviously grab some of those skating skill things that they need to work on and pass anyway, and put them into drills that go down the ice together, whether it's outside edges or the 3-turn sequence from start to, back 3-turn back crossover from start to. So it's working on all those together. And that's, I think it's important to, for many levels, is to have those little groups and keep them going, and then keep the kids motivated whether they're doing the warm-up stuff or whether they're jumping or spinning as well. And then to rotate them through other coaches in the team as well. So yeah, lots of basic skating and stroking and edges and balance and spirals and shoot the ducks, and yeah, lots of things.
Yeah, there's no replacement for great fundamentals, is there?
No, there isn't. It's a great answer, Scott, to all that question. That was excellent. Yeah, I mean, we've got another good one here, Scott. You
have more questions.
No.
Really? Yeah, we've got some good ones coming in. This one says, how do you not get super dizzy when coming out of a spin, Scott? How do you?
Well, it was, yeah.
Good question, actually.
Lots of practice. Practice. Everyone, wanted to know why I was such a good spinner, and it was, well, I like to do it, and then I practiced, and then it set me apart from. And back in the day, we didn't have to, we didn't have to grab our leg or pull it over your head or twist your ball, So we just had usually basic positions. So we just tried to make them as fast as you can. And we used to have a competition in California called the Arctic Blades Invitational, and it was the end of the summer competition. And what they did was, the one part was your program, and the part before that was an elements competition. So one of the elements was your spin combination, and you had to do it 3 times in a row. Like, do one spin combination, exit, get ready to do the second one, and they would judge you on that. So I just remember spending obviously July, August, like 6 or 8 weeks practicing 3 spins in a row. And that's when my spin started to improve as well. And, obviously when you're young and you're coming out of your spin, you're going to be dizzy. But yeah, the more that you do it and the more that you train it, it's your equilibrium gets used to it. So yeah, practice your spins, practice.
Do you think you're dizzy after one spin? Try 3 combos in a row. Holy cow. That's a great idea.
Yeah, so we do that with our skaters every once in a while. You say, hey, whether it's the same spin, or your 3 spins from your long program, or we have like a little spin patch and you go down the rink and in a line and do 1 spin and keep going to the next line and spin and then go to the next line. So it's just trying to be, as a coach, trying to be fresh and creative and come up with different ways of doing what you need to be done, but in a different energy expenditure and a different way, maybe a different approach.
It's very cool. It's really good. And now they're really starting to come in, Scott. We've got some great ones coming. And I think,
fired up.
Scott, this one might be really relevant to what's going on right now in terms of how we're all kind of dealing with this. But Sabrina's asking, how are you dealing with and helping your skaters deal with not being to be on the ice right now? Are you spending time, are they spending time in your skates with guards on? Any tips beyond physical conditioning? So there's a question for you there, Scott.
Yeah, and that's obviously a huge learning curve for everyone, and it's a different time, and it's something that we weren't expecting, and now it's trying to figure out ways to obviously keep the kids motivated and inspired and doing all those things that I talked about a little bit before that they needed to work on anyway. So me personally, a month ago when it was all going down, my initial reaction was, let's let the kids rest, actually. Let's let them be kids. Let's let them get adjusted to this new norm of social distancing and not being at the rink and having to do their online schooling and being with their parents all day long. So many different factors. So I'm like, let's let them rest. And they need to rest anyway. Like, it was kind of at the time of the year that they needed to kind of re-energize themselves. So I wasn't too focused on, doing all the things that we're starting to implement now. But now I feel like with the uncertainty of how long it's going to last, we need to do those things that everyone's starting to do, which I think is great as well. And to be able to collaborate and join other people's classes. And I think the Zoom meetings are great, and to spend the time obviously doing skating related things, whether it's jump classes or sport specific workouts, or we've been implementing some learning days where we've invited judges to come in and talk about what are skating skills in their mind and what do they look for. And we had a technical specialist on yesterday, and she was talking about different levels and how do you achieve them, and all those tools that we can use now in this time, so the kids are continually able to learn, right? So I personally haven't had them put their skates on and walk around. I did see a video of one of my students having skates on and on a unicycle, which I thought was interesting, and tested his balance or not. So it's a creative way for them to interact. And, like I said, times have changed and kids interact with Instagram and posts and all those things anyway. So it's having those moments to stay connected and to let them know that I'm still thinking about them, and I'm still planning of our return and what they should be doing, and all those things. But I think I've seen a lot of great classes out there, and I think it's a lot of good information, whether it's overall body strength, and we do ballet classes with them once a week on Zoom. So lots of stuff for them and the other part is to have a plan and get them scheduled so that they're not overwhelmed, right? So that they're not doing 12 classes a day and then they get bored with it, or they're not, they're not super focused. We want them to be inspired and a little bit hungry, right? A little bit, I want them to be itching to get back onto the ice. And, the first couple of days, they're like so happy and excited, which I know I will be too, but it's a different time. And yeah, it's being creative with ways to train them. And then hopefully when it stops snowing, we can get outside even more and, do some cardio stuff, and they can go bike rides with their family. And like I was talking to Jadene at the beginning, it's an interesting time as a coach too, because now you're having those times that you don't normally have with your family, or, so that's important as well, to obviously be conscious of the world, but in finding the positive out of the situation and enjoying the time that you have. with the loved ones, whether it's, you know, Zooming your family or sitting down to a dinner that you don't normally do because you're normally teaching during the week. But yeah, so
absolutely. Thanks for all those ideas, and just even the idea of too much isn't always what we want either, right? I like that idea of giving them a schedule, giving them something, but leaving them that little bit hungry. I really appreciate you sharing that. And I had one other question around that, if I could, Ben. Just have you given any of your skaters more individual plans at this point, or have you kind of kept it, you know, here's the group situation? Just curious what your thoughts are on that.
Well, like I said, me personally, I've gone a little bit slower than it appears other coaches have, which is totally fine. Like I said, I wanted to give them a break and give them time to adjust. And then we started to implement some group stuff. And I know some of the kids have outsourced other classes, and I've coordinated other things for them to join in, which I'm super happy that they're motivated and inspired to do that. And now, you know, since we're seeing that it's lasting a little bit longer than we have anticipated, I feel like it's important to, make those one-on-one connections and to have a more individual plan for them, especially if it lasts longer than, you know, maybe, like, who knows. But if this continues to be like this, I definitely want to make those one-on-one connections. And then obviously, you know, there's lots of opportunity to have those, the time, whether you're talking about, you know, choreography and making sure you're running your program in your living room or in front of your mirror, or working on jumps that you can individually look at and go through. I think we'll explore that as well. But I don't know, maybe I'm in denial and I'm thinking that we're going to get back sooner than we are, but that I don't want to, you know, do that too much. But I think as it goes on, I'll be making those more individual.
I think what you're saying is really great, because you're saying we're shifting as time goes and not going, this is the answer, right? It's like when it first happened, a little bit of a break, and then group, and then maybe some individual as we go. So I think it's really helpful, at least from my perspective. So Ben, do we have another panel question?
Scott, these are really starting to fire up right now. We got a few. What I think I'll do is there's a couple of questions on here that kind of link into sort of the same sort of theme, Scott. So I'll read both of them out to you, and I think you'll be pretty good at this one, as well as answering sort of the same idea. And it says, what are some tips from you to become mentally stronger before competition, and how do you deal with the feelings of nervousness and pressure at competitions? So, you know, a former U.S. champion 2 times. I mean, you obviously know a lot about that.
And I think it's a huge part of the sport, is being able to know your body and know yourself, and being able to adapt and to have those tools to handle, whether it's nervousness, you know, whether it's the butterflies, whether it's the self-doubt, I'm not good enough, or I fell on my triple blah 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 last week and I'm gonna fall on it again, you know, all those things that go on in your head. Having the tools to be able to have a handle on that, and also practicing that, right? So, you know, I had a little bit of work when I was doing, I had lots of visualization stuff that I went to a sports psychologist, and we worked on being able to practice that. And like I said, that was a million years ago, and things have changed so much. And you have so many more accessible tools to be able to handle that. One aspect, which I think it would be a great time to start now, is to be able to divulge into meditation and breathing and slowing everything down, because, you know, in our world nowadays, it's so instant gratification, Instagram this and likes that, and it's being able to really go internally and figure yourself out. And it's hard. It's, as a 40 whatever person, it's easier to understand that as opposed to 10 or 11 or 12-year-old. But it's being able to have those times to be calm and to be quiet and to sit and to focus and and to meditate, right? Or to do some deep breathing, or now's a great time to do some visualization stuff. I used to we didn't have earbuds back in the day. I used to pull out my Walkman and stick my headphones on and listen to my music every night. And I look back at the 2 or 3 years that I had the best success, and no one told me to. I just liked the music so much. I love my program that I was like, I want to put it in my Walkman and listen to it before I went to bed every night, right? And I visualized myself, skating to it, and visualize what the rink was like, and visualize my coach sitting there, and visualized the smell, not just seeing it or feeling it. It's the smells, all those senses that you have when you're competing, and also visualize or feel, okay, I'm going to be nervous. That's normal. I'm human. I've got emotions and adrenaline and all those things that are going to happen, and that's okay, right? And to be okay with that, and to have, and understand, like I said, at a 40 whatever year old, it's easier to look back, but as a 12-year-old, you're trying to figure yourself out and trying to figure out how you do it, and you're growing up and you have all those doubts and different things, but it's really trying to take the time to understand yourself, and to think that the mental side of the sport, which is huge, like they've done studies at the competition, it's like 80% mental or whatever, right? It's all the work is done physically. It's now whether you can perform and do it. So it's, like I said, practicing that as well, and don't just wait till the competition. You're like, oh, this is how I'm supposed to handle my mental stuff. No, practice it now, right? With tools of being able to handle those stressors.
Great answer. Like, Scott, it's excellent. It's almost like it's kind of like if we knew then, right, Scott?
Oh, right. Or had the tools and the tips and the whatever.
But no, brilliant. And again, a couple more questions coming in, Scott. You're the popular right now. This is good. So Scott, just a question from one of our anonymous attendees here. How long would you recommend your skaters to warm up off the ice before a practice session? That's a good question, actually. Yes.
Yeah, I mean, I like to tell the kids that they need to be warmed up and ready to go. So usually between 20 and 30 minutes is the standard that seems to be functional, right? And to be working. Obviously, you want to get your heart rate going. You want to make sure your blood's flowing, and you want to make sure that you're started to train and practice some of the rotational stuff. Jumps, whether it's jumps or just rotational drills, and making sure your balance is there, and that your proprioception, where you are in space, that your body's warmed up to be able to handle all of that. And then, flexibility a little bit, and making sure your joints are moving. Yeah, definitely huge though. It can save so much time and energy if you're warmed up and ready to go.
Have you ever had a skater that it was hard to convince them about the off-ice warm-up before?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. Still do.
Sometimes people don't see that link, especially like you say when we're young, right? And we don't necessarily get it that this is going to equal this, right?
Yeah. It's a learned part of your daily sport, and if it's scheduled in there, if the kids are that mentality, then I think it's easier for sure. Mm-hmm. But yeah, it's a hard sell if they're not used to it, or they don't have time to do it, or they're rushing from one thing to the next, right? So it's having those moments where they do it and they feel good. It's trying to really make them aware that it's helpful, and then it's not only it's warm, and it's making sure that your session is productive, but then it's also making sure that you have longevity, that your body is going to last because you've done all the steps of warming up and cooling down, and your muscles and joints are moving in the right way so that you're staying injury free, basically. So yeah, and it took a while for Vaughn to learn how to warm up, and it was a bit of a issue, but he eventually did, so that's good.
That's great. Well, those are the wins as a coach that you don't get a medal for, but it's so important. And then you definitely made a difference, I'm sure, because look what happened for him. So it's great. Ben, are there other questions? I feel like there's lots of activity going on.
Yeah, there is. It's started to really pick up now. And there's one more question that went in the box here. It says, so how do you monitor daily goals, Scott? I know as coaches, we always try to do that, but just for your own point of view on daily goals, maybe working with your athletes, or maybe not even be yourself. That's an open-ended question, really, right? Yeah.
Yeah, and that's one of the harder things to do is to have the time to connect with everyone and make sure that they're doing what they're supposed to be doing and that they have their plan. And as we mentioned it before, it's hopefully teaching the younger ones, and that they, year after year after year, they kind of know the drill and the plan, and they know that what they're supposed to be doing. So they're not relying every single time to say, hey, what do I work on this session, or what should my goal be, right? So it's all that education that happens on a daily basis. And it also happens whether you're going to do a meeting with the skaters and the parents before as a yearly thing or a monthly thing. I think it's when they're either new to you or they're young and they're learning, it's imperative to have that time. And then it's as they're learning, as a coach, they're learning your style and they're learning a technique, they're going to understand what the expectations are. And I know we talk about it during their lessons all the time as well. Like what are you going to work on the rest of the session, or what's your goal for the rest of the day? And they know, depending on the time of year, if it's competition season, they know they have to do their short and their long, and they have to track their program, and they have to work on the things that they missed, and all those things that hopefully as they get older that they remember to do on a daily basis. And then, obviously in the group format, we can talk about it a little bit more and work on them understanding how to train themselves. That's, like I said, the huge thing. But yeah, it's hard when they're learning that, or they're not quite sure what they're supposed to be doing on the ice, or it's a daily thing. It's probably one of the hardest things to do as a coach, is to keep them focused and motivated and having a plan and not getting off the ice, or skating around crashing on their double axel 8 million times. You have other things you need to be working on.
No, that's great, Scott. And you know what, this kind of it's interesting. You just kind of dovetailed that off into that final statement you made, because this question comes from Rory, and it's kind of prevalent to what we're dealing with right now, I think. It says, but do you have some athletes who are reluctant to participate in activities you've organized since we've all been off? If so, what methods of motivation do you utilize?
That's a good question.
Yeah. Yeah.
For the most part, the majority of the kids want to stay active, and they want to stay connected with their peers, and they want to feel like they're still part of the skating community. So I think that part is good. Obviously, I'm pretty lenient when, especially times like this, when it's uncertain and they're being pulled in so many different directions. And then the other part that, we don't really know is how they're feeling, right? How kids are feeling and what their mental thoughts are with the pandemic, and with fear, if they're afraid or they're worried, or the stressors of their parents losing. There's so many different things of the world that are fans much more important than figure skating. But it's having times like this and having normalcy, like having their little group off ice jump class with their friends, is probably a nice little mental breakaway from what's going on in the world. So I think it's important to, as a coach, to try to obviously motivate them and try to find them a positive way of doing it. And, knowing in the back of your mind that all these things are going to benefit them, but then to not trick them, but to present it in a way that's going to be attractive, that, that they want to come. Because ultimately, at the end of the day, they have to be self-motivated, right? They have to, whether that's doing off-ice classes like this or during this time being motivated, but when they get back, the motivation has to come from within. I've been around a long time, and the people that have success are self-motivated for the most part. There's some sort of motivation, whether it's, usually it's self-motivated, or, there's a fear from mom and dad or a coach, like motivation has to be there. And the most healthy and productive are those self-motivated kids. So it's, you know, like I said, it's hard sometimes as a coach to explain or to educate or to get them to have that self-motivation. But that's one of the most rewarding parts of the job, actually, is to see that light bulb go on. Whether, you know, whether they've had success and like, oh, okay, that's what they mean when they say run my program, because I can do it in competition. Oh, a light bulb. Or I'm supposed to be flexible so I can pull my leg up here. Oh, I should actually work. Oh, I can actually do it. So when they have those light bulb moments, it's easier for sure, but it's trying to encourage and support them. And I like I said, I just try to do it in a positive way.
I love that. I think that's a great answer, because it is an uncertain time right now, and you know, being a coach in this time, it's, although it's different, it's also the same. So I like what you're bringing forward there, for sure. Ben, this hour, like, it is 10:54. I don't even know what happened to tell me. Like, this has been so fun. Have we missed anybody's questions, Ben?
You know what? I think we've gotten everybody. And you know what? First, it's got great answers. Like, I mean, I was awesome. Like, and so yeah, I think we've gotten through everybody there. So I think we're doing well on that live Q&A. So. Okay,
then I get to be selfish. I want to ask a personal question.
Uh-oh.
No, not personal for you, just personal for my curiosity. So having had all the experience you have had now as a coach, what is something that you learned as an athlete that you brought forward into your coaching? So maybe something from a coach or a competitive experience. I'm kind of looking for a story, like, you know, what was the story? Something, this happened, and then you had your light bulb moment, like, oh, this is really important, or something that really resonated with you that you just is still valuable for you today. Because you know, those are cool things to share, but we never get to share them. So maybe an experience that really hit you, or yeah.
Well, I can end with like this little story that's kind of funny at the time it wasn't super funny. And I was, like I mentioned, when I was younger, I liked to perform, and I liked to show off, and I liked to practice and work really hard and have a plan. And when I was younger, some of the competitions weren't very good because I got nervous and I didn't have the tools, and I couldn't figure out, you know, how to handle my energy and nerves and whatnot. So, and you know, and coaching's different these days, right? And the way that coaches used to teach 10 years ago, 20 or 30 years ago is completely different. And my coach, God rest her soul, like, she was an amazing woman who, Kathy, was super motivating and inspiring and a little scary at times, and passionate for skating. And that's, you know, and trying to take all those positive things that I learned, whether in some of the situations weren't so positive, and trying to spin it now in a positive way. I think that's one of the huge things that I'm working on as a coach now. But this little story, and it was kind of funny too, because I was just at Junior Worlds, and I remember this time, and you know, as a coach, we go through moments where we're trying to figure out how to motivate our kids, right? Do we say this, or do we, you know, try to push them this way, or what? How are we going to get these kids to do what they're supposed to be doing? So it was a Junior World Championships, and I was, you know, doing well in practice, and everyone was watching, and I was from the state. Like, it was supposed to be this amazing experience because I was supposed to win a medal in people's minds and my coach's mind and whatever. So short program, start off my program, my combination, triple Lutz double toe. It ends up being a triple Lutz double butt slide, right? Wipe out all. Get out, finish the program. I get off the ice, you know, and obviously I was the type of personality that was hard on myself anyway. So, you know, I was upset. I was just upset with myself. Got off the ice, sat down to kiss and cry with Kathy, and she turned over and looked at me, and she's like, "You're a smart boy." She's like, "Yeah, you should go back to school. If you can't handle the pressure, you should just quit and go back to school." And I thought, what? You know what I mean? So I, you know, looking back now, she's just trying to figure out a way to motivate me and to get me mad to be able to do better long the next day. But at the time I was like, well, I should quit. Does she really mean I should quit? Like, so as a coach now, I you know, when you have those experiences or your student doesn't do what they're supposed to be doing, or, you know, it's trying to figure out a way to motivate them, but in a positive way, and to find those. And it's a funny story now because, you know, knowing Kathy and everyone, you know, the moment I was like, that wasn't probably maybe did I rush my takeoff? Did my head turn? What was the technical thing? Well, that's where my brain goes to. Yeah. It's like, no, you should just quit. You can't handle the pressure. You should just quit.
I see Kathy saying.
So a funny little moment, you know, as a coach, like, and the other part too, and that's what I thank you guys for, and is the constant learning, right? Even as a coach now, and the way the sport's changing and the way that everything's evolving, and just to look forward and say, what can we do in the future, and how can we work together, and how can we inspire and motivate and come up with ways to, you know, get more kids involved in this amazing sport.
I love it. Wow. Thank you for sharing your story, and thank you for that sentiment. I think you're right. We can take from the past, but also look to the future and work together. And like things like this, I mean, you know, I'm not happy, obviously, with the craziness of the world, but I am grateful that there are moments like this that we can share, and maybe we can keep these things going into the future. And this could be, you know, another way of sharing with more people what we love to do. So thank you for being on today. We really, really.
Yeah, thank you guys. Totally appreciate it. It was super
Scott,
fun.
this was great. Thank you so much. Thank you.
Mm-hmm. No problem.
All right.
Thanks,
all right.
Guys.
Well, have an amazing day. And everyone, thank you for participating. Thanks for being here, you guys.
Scott Davis, that was great. Thank you.
Bye, guys.
Bye.
Enjoy your day. Bye-bye.